and hope that the computer doesn't. All right, I'm recording. Let's make that. Replace the spotlight there. Okay. Okay, so let's finish up this this painting, and then we'll talk about the next one. So, where were we last week? So we had just, when we finished up, we had just sort of finished putting these shadows in, and right now the way this looks, these two pots that are holding the plants do look like they're kind of floating there. They don't really look like they're in the, anchored into the space. So we need to do something with that. We need to kind of fiddle with cast shadows on our vine things here. We need to go back in and retouch up our doors and add a little bit of stuff going on here in the tree. We need some more, just a little bit more volume going on in the trees. And then I think, and then the sky, obviously, which the sky won't need to be very complicated because we have so much going on and there's so little sky. I think that'll be a fairly easy thing to do. So let's see here. I don't need that on. So a friend of mine got me one of these because I apparently have a slushy addiction now from the heat. So I was finishing it up. But now it's gone, so I need to just drink water. Okay. So, what do we want to tackle next? I think what I want to do real quick is kind of go back in. You can see that this detail that we put into our door got washed out a little bit, especially down in this area. And we want to make sure that detail is still fairly visible, because this really is our, this is what we're interested in, is this. And even though, it's kind of in the middle of the paper, that's okay. They always say, oh, don't put your area of interest in the middle. Well, sometimes it's okay to break that rule. And in this case, we're kind of leading people in to these doors. So if you recall that kind of dark blue that we mixed up last week, I saved it over here knowing that I would need it. And this is just, I think this is just royal blue. It could even be indigo, which, let's see. Or Antwerp or Prussian blue. And then we'll add just a wee bit. In fact, I'm just going to pick up some from right here. This is Hooker's Green on my palette right here. I'm just going to add a wee bit of that. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of, I'll show you here. I'm going to grab a little bit of quinacridone violet. So whatever, kind of darkish violet purple that you have. So that will really darken that up. And then I just want to add a little bit more blue just to put it on the blue side. So we'll add just a wee bit more royal blue, maybe even some indigo. And it looks blacker almost or something almost on camera, but it's just a real dark blue. So now that I've mixed that up, I'm just going to pick up a little bit, and I'm just rolling my brush through it. So I'm just picking up a little paint with my brush and just kind of rolling it as I pick it up. I'm rolling the brush so I get that nice point. And then I'm just going to come back over here and kind of touch up some of this, like it got really fuzzy right there. So I'm just going to come in and repaint some of this. So I need to be careful because I don't want to get too over. That can stay the same. I don't want to take these thin lines that I painted and make them thicker. So I have to be careful in that regard. Let's just take this on up into there. And this will just sharpen this up again. So it once again becomes our area of focus. I'm going to just add a little bit of a line right there on the edge. I don't know how visible that was, but let me kind of zoom in there. Basically, I just kind of went in and added a wee bit there and a wee bit right there, just to kind of define that just a little bit. And then I'm going to start out, I'm going to paint just a nice thin line along here, along this line, because it's not particularly, well, it's not thick everywhere. So I'm just kind of redoing my line, the thin one, and then I can come back in and add that thicker line by putting a little more pressure on my brush. I can just add that thicker line. And really all this is just, I'll load a little bit more on my brush. All this is just kind of touching up those lines we already put in here on this door. But the reason we did them with, and then painted over them again was because, odds are we wouldn't be able to see the pencil lines we had put in there. So I always generally will paint them twice. I know that seems like a waste, but let's just come down here with this one. And I don't always have to, like sharpen up every bit of that line. Sometimes I'll just paint a little bit and then I'll sort of trail off like that. Come in here with this thick one on this side. You'll notice everything on the bottom side gets the thicker line, and the top side gets the thinner line, or slightly thinner line. Sometimes it ends up a little thicker than you want, but that's all right. So again, we're just kind of going back over what we've already done to kind of clean that up and make it a little bit sharper. So I'll just continue on. We'll just kind of come through there. Thick and thin. Now thick again. And a thinner line. That also, that helps show that this center part is recessed. So I'll start out up here on the top of this one really thin, and then as I go, I'll put more pressure on the brush and thicken up that stroke so I get a thin to thick stroke. This is going to be another thin stroke. Let's see. That's another thin one that comes in right there. That is thin. So just kind of cleaning this up a little bit. Sometimes if I screw up and I might have to make something a little fatter than I planned or thicker or whatever, but and then we'll put a little bit more shadow over here just to kind of play up that little bit. Yeah. So that just kind of sharpened. Let's see, I never did hit that. That just kind of sharpens up these details on this door a little bit. We can even come in here and I'll add a little bit of a really tiny thin line to the bottom of these doorknobs just to give it a little bit of shadow at the bottom. Man. Something's going on with the internet today. It keeps giving me this unstable internet connection thing. So, okay, so we've kind of cleaned that up, and that's given me a minute to kind of think about how I want to treat the shadows on these to kind of really help them recede in. These are so bright, and I like them bright, but they're a little bit too bright. So I need to kind of knock down, and push back some of this area here. And same with maybe here. Here I like that, I was purposely going for a little reflected light from here to there. So we're getting a bit of bounced light. And up here, this is kind of that shadow here. This is kind of where maybe a little bit of light's coming in, and the angle's a little off, but it doesn't matter. But so that's what I'm kind of pretending. This is a little bit of light that's visible from up here. And in all actuality, the angle of this shadow probably should have been slightly different, but it doesn't matter. It's okay. So we're just going to give this a little bit of a light wash. And I think I'm going to do kind of a violet. I have a violet that I kind of mixed up. I'll scroll back over here or roll back over here to the palette. And this was made with royal blue, but again, you could use indigo or Prussian blue or Antwerp blue or maybe even cobalt blue. Any of those blues, and then whatever violet you have, be it, quinacridone, or this is permanent magenta, or quinacridone, or I'm sorry, alizarin crimson, or quinacridone violet. That's what I have here. But even if you have, well, like here, I have I don't remember how to pronounce this. Let me see if I can remember this. No, I can't read it because it's too dark. It's, what's it called? This is some sort of purple. Or violet. It's dioxazine or something violet. And it's actually just a dark, let me grab a little here. It's actually just kind of a purple, as you can see there. If you have a purple, that's perfectly okay to use something like that. I kind of like to mix a little bit, so I like to be able to turn mine a little bit either to the violet side or the blue side. I'm going to grab a little royal blue over here. Oh, you can't really see what I'm grabbing there, but let me get this back up out of the way so you can see that a little better. So I have, these all look kind of dark. I think they're in shadow. There we go. Let's pull that over. So I have royal blue here. I'm going to grab a little bit of that and I'm going to pull that over here. And you can see I've made basically that purple, but I don't want it quite that dark. So I want to come in with a little more of my violet, and you can see now it leans a little, it's darker than the regular violet, but it leans a little bit, you know, it's more purple than that, but it leans more towards the violet side. And that's kind of what I want. Because these pots are so warm, I want to be able to kind of stay in that kind of red. Wow, this is really wonky going on here. Kind of red. Let me get this situated again. Kind of red, you know, I want to stay in that family, that kind of warmer family. So I want it to be, even though this is a cool violet, I want it to be a little on the warmer side. And I'm just going to come in, I'm going to use, this is my number 10 round. And I'm just going to kind of come in here and put a little bit of a wash of this over the top of that, just to kind of push that into that shadow. And you can see I left a little, let's see, there's a bit of a glare. Let me see if I can get rid of that a little bit. No, not really. Let's see. I'm not too concerned with the fact that, you know, I kind of left some wonky lines there. I kind of like that there's a little bit of a hard edge in some spots. Let me add just a bit more to that. It looks like I've gone really dark on this, but really it's not that dark. I did kind of overpaint, so I'm just going to pull a little bit of this violet back in there, or, you know, out from there, just so I don't get a weird line there. But that little bit of extra darkness will help anchor that. Let's pick some of that. It's starting to anchor that pot into the ground that it's sitting on. So I'm gonna do the same here. I'm just gonna kind of come in with that wash of violet. I'm gonna pull that all the way up into there. Pick up a cat hair. And I'll just let that dry and then I'll grab it. So I want that all the way up in there. I really want that contrast against that. And then I'm going to pull this back down into here. And again, I know that it looks like it's really dark, that I'm covering up all this light that I painted, but I'm not really. And then I'm just going to kind of add a little bit more dark kind of down in here. Again, that'll just kind of help anchor that. A little bit so you can see that that's starting to feel like it's sitting down in there. And if I dry it and get rid of some of the glare, that'll lighten up a little bit. But even now, you know, it's let's see if I can get this to, there we go. You know, you can still see some of that detail down in there, but it's starting to look like it's anchored into the ground. Is that making sense for everybody?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm going to add just a wee bit more over here. Just kind of darken that side a little bit more. That was. And maybe just a bit more right in there.
Are you okay, Sophie? I can be hiding. It's thundering really bad here and raining.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, it's like scary.
Huh.
Yesterday. We got that yesterday.
Mm.
Huh. Yeah, it's sunny and hot here still. Although I'm kind of glad it's not doing that here because my dogs freak out with the thunder.
Yeah, my dog is going into the closet.
Yeah. So there we've pushed these back a little bit. I still have a glare where I added a little more. Let me just dry that real quick so you guys can see. Yeah. So that just kind of anchors those down in there a little bit more. I might even want to add, just to kind of really emphasize this, just a wee bit more dark under this lip. And I might even take it a little darker than that. Let me grab a smaller brush. I'm going to grab my number 6 and just grab a little bit of that blue that we mixed up for this and mix that in. I'll show you. Basically, I grabbed a little bit of this blue that we mixed up and I mixed it in here to make just a slightly bluer violet. And now we'll come back over here. And I'm just going to put a little bit of more of a shadow under that lip, just to really kind of give that a little push. Kind of help that out a little bit. Just that little bit of darker color in there. And I want to add, I'm not super happy with this doorknob, these doorknobs. I want a little bit brighter kind of rust in there. So I'm just going to add a little water and lift out those doorknobs. See how that lightened that just a little bit? And this is just clean water on my brush after I cleaned it. And then I let it sit and then I blot it and then just kind of lift it. So I just lifted a little bit. I mean, not a lot. And I'm going to go back in. I just want to make it a little brighter rust. So I'm going to grab a little permanent red. And I'm just going to put just a wee bit down there and there. So that doesn't seem, I don't know if you can even see what I did there. I just put a little bit down. Is that going to focus? There we go. And then I'm just going to kind of let that run down into, so that just gives it a slightly brighter color, like a slightly brighter rust color. Not a lot, just a little hint of that. That's all I wanted in there. Couldn't figure out where all my washcloth, my little towels had gone, and fell down and we're underneath my chair. So yeah, that's just, you know, it's just a little pop of color, not that noticeable, but it just sort of helps those be a little more vibrant, I think. Yeah. And I'm actually not, I don't know that I need a whole lot more texture and stuff in here, or volume. I think a little, or, you know, contrast, I guess is really what I'm trying to say, not volume, contrast. What I am going to do is take a little Hooker's green. Let's go back over here. So I've already mixed that color at one point, but I'm going to add a little Hooker's green to it. So that's all I'm grabbing is just Hooker's green. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this dark that we already mixed. I'm just going to reconstitute that a little bit and add a little bit of that to it. See if I can get, yeah, that's kind of nice. Maybe just a wee bit more royal blue. So I've made kind of a nice dark green, kind of a, you know, forest green almost there. And I'm just going to come in and add a little contrast in some of this bushy area, you know, places where I think, you know, this vine or whatever this is, where I think there would be more shadow. So I'm just going to kind of come in. You don't necessarily have to use, if a, you know, number 10 brush kind of makes you uncomfortable, switch down to like an 8. We'll just do that. And I'm just going to add in a little, basically areas that I feel like maybe would be a little darker. So just coming back in and adding a little more contrast and therefore a little more volume to this vine thing. If I feel like maybe there's a few too sharp, you know, too many sharp edges, I can come in and soften some of those with just a clean, wet brush. And then I can kind of dry my brush and further soften that just by picking some of that back up. Just softens that edge a little bit in some spots. Let's grab a little more of that. We'll just grab a little more of this here. And really all I'm doing is kind of, I'm rotate, or, you know, kind of going between, you know, back and forth between hitting just using the tip of my brush, or, you know, hitting the paper like that, where I'm giving a little bit more surface to, you know, if my finger's the paper and up is that way, you know, I'm either hitting it with the tip, kind of painting along like that, or I'm pressing down and painting with the tip and a little bit more of the side, so that I get a variety of marks with the brush. So here you can see that's the, you know, just the tip. It's a little bit angled, so it can be a thin or a thick line. And then if I come in, I can, you know, use the edge, the side of that, just to give a little more, just a little more volume. You know, we're not painting individual leaves here. We're just kind of giving the impression of leaves. So that's really what this is, just kind of areas where I think there might be a little more dark, a little shadow. I could even come in, I'll grab a little peacock blue, and I'm going to just paint a bit of shadow over this whole side, with the peacock blue. I know that seems drastic, and bear with me here. I'm just going to put a little bit over some of these little flower things, so it knocks them back. They're not quite as bright. I'm not going to do that to all of them, just maybe just that little bit on that side there. I'm going to wait till that dries. While I'm waiting on that, I'll go back to this other, maybe there's a little more something going on in here. There's a little bit of a vertical shape coming up back in there, that's shadow. If I feel like I got too much on there, I can always go back in before that dries and lift a little bit back out, which I did. It's still got a nice little bit of a blue glaze over the top, so these are a little brighter over here. Add a little more. So just kind of coming in and adding a little bit more there in some spots. Now that that's kind of dry, I can come back in, and it's not that dry though, but that's all right. It doesn't need to be perfectly dry. I am going to hit it with a dryer real quick, just to make it just a wee bit drier. And then I'll add a little more of these little dark green areas. Back in here. So really all this is just kind of playing around with contrast and thinking about texture. Where you might see more, back in a little bit, so therefore it's darker. And I really like those vertical shapes that I made, so I'm going to just kind of break them up a little bit. And then we'll just come in like that. And then up here, I'm going to leave that kind of light, like the sun's hitting that a little bit more. I'm going to kind of pull this shadow kind of maybe over there just a bit. Like so. So I added just a bit more of that. If I want, I can come back in and kind of pick up those spots where the shadow is covering those flowers. I want a little bit of that popping through again. Yeah, that's not too shabby. I'm kind of happy with that. I want to do a little more of that over here as well on this other side. I just realized that I have this weird, that thing right there is bugging me. So before I do anything, I'm going to get rid of that. It's bothering me that it's there. It shouldn't, it's not really adding to anything. So I'm just going to come in here and sort of soften this whole, really right now, I grabbed a little bit of the violet that we had mixed up, and I'm adding it to this wall, and I'm just getting rid of that little flower clump there. It just was sort of sticking out like a sore thumb. I think I mispainted something, but that's okay. We'll just make it work. So I did not like that little flower thing that I had there. It's still kind of visible, but I can deal with that later. I'm going to dry this real quick. So I just, that shape there was bugging me. It was just, you know, it was one of these flowers, but it didn't really work. Okay, so let's grab a little of that dark green. Again, I may have to mix up a little bit more. Just add a little green to that. Grab a little more royal blue. All right. So we'll just kind of, and really, I'm just kind of making this up. I'm kind of pretending I see shapes in there. I do spend a lot of time looking at, at bushes and trees, and if you spend a little bit of time looking at them, you'll start to see, oh, there's just these little kind of globby shapes of dark in amongst the lighter color. The lighter shades of green and violet and whatever else you're seeing. Blue. Let's see, I'm going to come in here. So just take a minute when you have a chance and just kind of look at different plants and the way they kind of, the light kind of trickles through things. And that was a weird shape that I didn't care for and that's really all I'm doing. I'm just kind of thinking about those shapes. Even if I were to look at the original photo, you'd see, even though it's kind of washed out because it's overexposed, you'd see, little areas of darker green and lighter green. And let's put a little more dark on that side, maybe. And then even in places where you would think, like over here, there would be a lot of shadow, and this whole side would be in shadow. There's going to be little areas where the light shines through. So I'm going to just kind of dapple it, like so. So, and over here, where you would think, oh, well, this is all light. Again, I want to dapple that. It may not be as dark, say, as what I've got going on down here. I may add more water up here so it's not quite as dark as some of this other. It's not quite as sharp, maybe even. So I'm playing between the point of the brush and, I'm either hitting the paper like that, or I'm hitting the paper like that, or a combination of the two. I may start out with a point, and that just gives us a little more, contrast in there. Kind of bumps that up a little bit. And then I want to do the same up here in the trees. And for that, I want it to be, because this is so green, I want this to be more green instead of, kind of whatever that green is. I'm going to grab a little permanent green number 2, which is a lighter green. And I'm going to mix that with what I've already got. And you see, if you had a sap green, that might work. That'd be a similar green. I'll show you. I have sap green right here. It's kind of an earthier, kind of bright green, but it is fairly similar to that. But basically what I've done is I've taken this kind of darker green and let me grab a little more. I'll just grab some of this. I'm going to grab some of that and throw that in there. So it's still a dark green, but it's kind of a more, it's a brighter dark green. And so we'll come back over here. And I just want to kind of bump up some of these.
Is anybody else kind of falling behind?
Oh, I can wait.
Or am I the only one?
You need me to wait? I can stop right here. Why don't I stop here? I got to run to the bathroom anyway. I'll stop here, and you guys catch up.
Michael, what color did you say you're using here on those shrubs?
Here?
No, on the shrubs. Yeah.
Back here. So I took permanent green number 2, which is a lighter. I'll show you. It's this lighter. It's this kind of medium dark green right here. And I mixed it with that dark green that I had. So I have kind of a brighter dark green instead of a hooker's green. So if you have even if you took some permanent green number 1 or your light, like if you have a light grass green,
yes,
or something, and mix that with blue, you get you still have a dark green, but it's a kind of a brighter green. It's a brighter dark green is what I'm trying to say. So I'm gonna stop here real quick. I'm gonna run to the bathroom so everybody can get a chance to catch up. And then we'll finish up these in the sky, and I think we'll be pretty close to done. Oh, completely bonkers. There we go. Whew. Whew. Can you guys hear my fan going, or is that not too distracting?
No.
Oh, good. Okay. I have a new
can't.
fan. It's not as quiet as the one that burned out a couple weeks ago, and I was where I don't have it on high because on high I couldn't hear anybody around me. But I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me okay. It is just muggy today.
It was supposed to rain,
Yeah, it's
like a 40.
oh yeah. I see clouds kind of moving into the from the east, it looks like.
It's a torrent here. It's just coming down like a flood from the sky.
Wow.
Still?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, isn't that
Easy.
Boy, I'd like to get some of that.
good for your
Yeah.
Good.
Well,
patient?
Yeah.
we were praying for rain, dang it. We got it.
Looks like it's nice and breezy outside. Of course, it still says it's 93 degrees here.
Kathy, you said you lived on the Hammond?
Yeah, we live on Hammond Road.
I haven't been out there for years.
Yeah, I think the wash is gonna probably be flooded out.
Oh. Our arroyo down by our house ran the other night.
Oh, wow.
You know, a whole bunch. It caused an embankment where they lived.
How's everybody doing? Are we caught up or still need?
I am.
I'm caught up.
I'm good.
Oh, it looks like Becky dropped out. I don't know. I think why don't we go ahead? I'll keep an eye out for it. It looks like her feed got dropped. Shoot. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and keep going. So yeah, basically I'm just taking this lighter or brighter dark green, and I'm adding some areas where I feel like I want a little more contrast. So I definitely want more against, hey, Mr. Bug. I definitely want more kind of down here against this wall. so I get a little more contrast against that. It really helps push that wall forward. And on camera, let's see, I don't know. What does that look like over here? Yeah, it's still, I mean, it looks a lot darker than it is, but I know that I can lift some out, and I can add a little water here just to, so I've completely cleaned my brush out, and now I just have water in it, and I'm using that to kind of spread that around. And you can see I'm purposely leaving little areas of lighter color even within this larger, darker area. See, I want a little more contrast against that. One in there, but not too much. So I'm going to come back with a little water, just a clean brush. And then maybe up here, I want some of that, but not quite as dark. So I'll put a little down, and then I'll come back in and add a lot more water and kind of move that around. So I get a bit more of a, a lighter dark up in there. Let's see, I don't like that shape, so I'm just going to take that all the way over to the edge. And that just gives me, a little bit more texture and volume within this tree. I can add a little more, few little darker dots down in there just to kind of break that large light area up just a bit. And then I want a little more contrast over here as well. So I'm going to come back in with some of that here as well, just to really help push this forward and push these trees back. And so I'm actually going to just put a lot of dark down in here and then come back and lift some of it back out here in a minute. So that looks like I've really just gone in and darkened that whole thing. And I kind of have, but I know here in a little bit, once it's dry, I can add a little more or lift a little bit back out so that I get some of that texture back. So I'm just going to kind of come in here like so. A little more water now. So completely cleaned my brush out, and I'm just using water to move some of that excess paint around. And you can see that it lightens it up, but I still have a pretty decent contrast against, I want to add a few little more darker spots up in there. Yeah. Maybe over in here. So if I dry that really quickly, there we go. If I dry this really quickly, I can even kind of hit that with my finger, move that around a little bit. I can come back in with I can either use a paintbrush and I can scribble in, I can just fake calligraphy in, just like this, on some water on there, or I can use my varied dot pattern spray bottle, which is what I'm going to use. But you guys definitely, if you don't have one of these, I recommend just kind of coming in and painting just once it's dry, it's got to be bone dry. Come back in and scribble a little water in there and then let it sit for a little bit. So I'm just gonna spritz this in a few spots. And if I get some in the wrong place, it's okay. I might even put some over there. There we go. That looks all right. Maybe one little. There we go. So I'm going to let that sit for a second. Mostly it's centered around here, but I did get some over here, and that's okay. I'm not too worried about that. So I let that sit for a little bit. I let it soak into the paint. And now I'm going to blot it up. And I can scrub it now because I got it a little over here. I got a little green into my, but you can see I've now added more texture back into that dark. So I was able to put a whole lot of dark on there and then lift some of it back out. I even got some texture lifted out over here, which is fine. Now I think I kind of maybe got a big blotch of water right here. So I can go back in now with a little bit of that dark green and kind of clean up this edge just a skosh. Where I got a little green on that, but that's okay that I got a little green on it. I don't mind that. And I can break up that big blotch of light just a wee bit more. I can even go back in. Maybe this is a little too much. Maybe I'll come over here. And all I'm doing is just going back in after I put the dark down, I lifted some of it back up. Now I feel like I need to add a little bit more back in. It's just a constant back and forth on that. Until you're happy with the texture. And I'm fairly happy with that. I kind of like it. It looks like, dappled leaves. So I'm kind of happy with what I got going on there. See if we can get this. There we go. Yeah. I think that looks all right. I might come back in here. I love what's going on with this shadow. But I feel like it's popping out in front of this. So what I need to do is come back in. I'm going to grab a little of that violet. So you remember we grabbed a little either permanent magenta or alizarin crimson or quinacridone violet, which is what I'm using. Whatever kind of light violet you have. And I'm going to mix a little, I think in this case, I'm going to mix a little peacock blue in with it. You could use any blue though. So I get this kind of nice violet, kind of a light, slightly darker violet. And I'm going to come back in and just put a little more shadow back in on top of this. Like so. And I'm going to make it kind of dappled so that maybe there's some spots where the sun's coming through even more. Let's see, I've used that. I'm going to come back over to that dark blue green that we were using. And use a little of that over here. I love what happened here, but I feel like that whole thing needs to be kind of just pushed back. I think once it gets out here is where I want it to be dappled a little bit more. And then I can kind of pick some of this up and have it blend into that existing shadow. I think that'll help push that back though in space. Same with up here. Let's see, I'm going to grab, this is mostly violet up in here. So I'm going to grab some of that violet, kind of come up into here. Kind of help push that back. This, as much as I love what was going on there, it was just fighting too much with with this on where in space that was. Switch back to this violet over here. Put it up against the violet in the plant, so we get a little bit of a lost edge there. We'll just come in now with a little water, so it's not as, too dark. Yeah, so you can see that's helping to push that. That's pushing that wall back in. I think I lightened that up a bit too much. So sometimes you have to sacrifice little bits that you like for the good of the composition. And I had to, I really liked what was going on there, but it just was fighting too much and it needed to be pushed back in space. So this needs to be, that wall needs to feel like it's behind this bush. And I still have a little bit of that. I still have a little bit of that kind of fun orange shadow going on there where it feels like light's reflecting off different things. But it helps push this, this wall back and pulls the vine thing forward. Just that little bit of slightly darker shadow. Yeah. Let's see. That lightened up a bit too much, so let's just do that. We'll dry this real quick and then take a look at it again. I just noticed that I dragged a whole slew of green down on my wall there. Not to fret. I'm just going to lift that back up. And it's okay because it'll kind of push our, I'm going to put a little bit of blue. I'm going to spritz some blue around the edges of this anyway to force our, vision in here. So this will kind of go away, but this already starts that process just by having that little bit of green there. It helps. Hey, Becky, we lost you for a little bit.
Yeah, it's raining here now. So my internet will go in and out.
Oh, yeah.
It's raining in Bloomfield now.
Huh.
It's
Well,
nice.
hopefully we make it through class before my internet cuts out again.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. So you can see I just, where I dragged it, I've got it on the side of my hand. You can see it here. Maybe if I can turn my hand the right. I accidentally drug my hand through and got some green on that wall. But I just lifted that back out. It was dry, and even if it hadn't been dry, I could have done it. But either way, dry or not, there's still a little bit of a flake there. I don't know, a little bit of a dark spot there. But all in all, that's not going to even be noticeable. So if you do something like that, don't panic. Just just think, okay, well, I can fix that. There are no mistakes, only happy accidents. And I kind of actually like that little bit of green that's in the wall anyway. You remember I added a little bit down in here when I was painting, which is, it's mostly kind of faded out into this kind of gray area right there. But yeah. So let me get that out of the way. I'm going to flip this around only because I find it a little easier to paint skies, even simple ones, upside down, so everything flows away from whatever I'm doing. And normally I'd use a flat brush for this, but this is so little that I'm just going to use my number 10 round, and I'm going to go in here. My water's got a little bit of a blue tint. I'm going to go in and add some water to the paper. I don't know if I'll end up using, toilet paper or Kleenex or anything on this one. We'll see what happens. Yeah, because there's so much going on, there really doesn't need to be a lot going on in the sky. It just needs to kind of be there to sort of help everything feel cohesive. So we'll just kind of, and shoot, I'm even adding, a little bit of color just by painting around these pine trees that I've got there, because I've kind of overlapped and you can see the color kind of bleeding out, which is okay. So I'm going to grab a little peacock blue. This feels like a bright sunny day to me, so I'm not going to do a lot, like I said. And I'm just going to kind of bring in this peacock blue. Will kind of come in a little dark right there for some good contrast. And then it'll get a little lighter over here as we get kind of closer to the top. We'll pull some of that back out. I don't want quite that big I don't want a line there, so I'm just kind of pulling that color around. Grab a little more. I'm cleaning my brush and then grabbing more paint each time. And sometimes, like just now, I clean my brush entirely. So I put a lot of color down, and now I'm just going to move it around with more water. So I've got a fair amount of water on the paper, and I'm adding more water as I go. So here I'm grabbing a little more peacock blue, just kind of get that down in there. And then I need some on this side. I don't want it to stop. So yeah, I think, I could go in, and maybe I will, just for giggles, I'll grab a little bit. I don't need a lot, so I'm just going to grab a little bit of toilet paper here and make a, kind of a small cloud shaped thing, and just add a little bit of I'm not going to even put a lot of work into it. There. I don't like this shape, so let's fix that. That's the wrong. I stuck that in the green paint, but that's all right. In fact, I'm just going to go back over that. I don't really care for that. We'll just leave that as is. Let me flip this back around. Yeah, I don't think this needs a lot. I grabbed the wrong brush. That's what I did. I was using my number 6 brush. I was, the number 10 I was using when I was, I don't know. Now I can't remember. Anyway, I'm going to switch to my number 6 now, and add just a wee bit more blue right in under here. Kind of pull that back out, and then I've completely cleaned my brush, and then I wiped it on my cloth, and I'm going to just kind of pull a little bit of this over into there. Again, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this sky because it's not the main part of this painting. I just want a little bit of cloud texture up in there. Maybe I will go back in and do something like that. It doesn't need a lot. I mean, I am going to be putting blue around, so a lot of this will kind of disappear anyway, but it'll be visible underneath there. I think that may be all I do to the sky. Let's see here. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't need a lot. I feel like it needs just a wee bit more. I lifted a fair amount of contrast over here. And I want to kind of change the shape of this shrub there. There was too straight a line going across there. So I know this looks like really dark paint, like I'm outlining it, but I'm going to come back in now and add a whole lot of water and pull that back away so it's not outlining that. But you see how I changed the shape of that without really working too hard. I put a little bit of blue around it and then pulled it out away from there. If I need to, I can wipe my brush off and kind of pick some of that up. I cleaned it and then I can pick some of that back up now that I've changed that shape just a wee bit. Yeah, I like that a lot. That's not too shabby. Yeah. So we need to kind of focus in. So I'm gonna dry this really quickly. And I'm going to grab, my regular spray bottle. This is just a normal spray bottle, fine mist. I'm going to cover up my palette because I don't want to spray blue over all my other stuff. I'm going to move a few things that I don't want blue paint on. And I'm going to shake the heck out of this so that I get all the paint mixed up.
Yes, and I can't get away from here. My husband just got home. It's raining like heck. He said, "Are the windows open?" I said, "Yes, but I can't leave."
Oh.
I'm painting my sky.
So so I've got this blue. I'm going to test it a couple times, make sure it works. Yes, it does. And I'm just going to, I've got my hand over the center, but I'm aiming this spray, the nozzle. I'm aiming it for the edge of the paper. So I'm trying to aim it, kind of on the edge there. So, because I don't want it out in here. So I'm just going to, see, I'm getting it around the edge. So I'm just going to, and of course I'm spraying into my fan that's blowing towards me, but that's all right. So we'll just, and you see how that adds that just little bit of a vignette. And I don't even need to do a lot at the top. But you can see it's now where, it kind of, that green that I started over here, it's kind of emphasized that. And now it's really getting you to look there. It's really forcing you. In fact, I may just hit that with a little bit more. And all this is cobalt blue. This is just cobalt blue that I squeezed out a snake that was about, an inch and a half. I didn't fill an inch and a half of paint in the bottom. I just squeezed out, that snake that comes out of the tube. I squeezed out about an inch and a half, and then I filled it 2/3 with water. Now, obviously, I've gone down since then, but I filled it with 2/3 of water, and then you just shake it up until it's all mixed up and you don't have any more sediment in the bottom. And that gives you this nice, I can go around here and kind of clean up this tape, get that, because that doesn't dry as fast. But it's now given us a nice little vignette around around the painting, and it forces the viewer in. Let me just dry this real quick. There we go. It's now, it now forces us into looking right in here where the, kind of the action is. This is what we really want to be looking at. This is all here to kind of anchor everything. But this being so bright, would lead people right off. I'd follow that or follow this right out of there. Even this. So by putting just that fine little bit of mist around the edges, here it's a little less noticeable, although you can see it kind of on the top of the tree there. You can see a little bit, or bush, whatever vine thing this is. You can see that up in there. But that really is all it is, and it's super easy. If you're ever able to take my in-person class, hopefully, I bring this to class with me so you guys can try it. But these, this is a couple of bucks. I think this one came from Target, but you can find them at Hobby Lobby. Here's another example of a fine mist spray bottle. This one has soft sides, but would work just as fine. This one I think came from Hobby Lobby. I know it did. This is just a 2 ounce. I think it's 2 ounces. This one may be a little bit more than 2 ounces. Like this is 2 ounces, and this is 2 ounces. But this is a fine mist spray that most sprayers are. So yeah, I think if I step back from it and take a look at it, there may be some things that it needs, although I can't see any at the moment. But as I finish a painting, I think I've talked about this before. I like to spend a little time with them. Most of the paintings we've done in class, I'm still kind of spending a little time with. I haven't quite signed yet, but I did on the river that we did. But it takes me a while before I decide I'm done with it. So I just kind of live with it. I like to look at it a lot, and I recommend you guys doing this too. Once you think you're done, then just kind of look at it and critique it on your own. Think, okay, well, what's it missing? What do I need? Is it missing anything? If it's not missing anything, then it's fine. But I like to kind of give that last little, kind of live with it for a little bit before totally deciding that it's finished. And sometimes even adding, if you've got a mat that's about the size of, I don't have any with me right now, but sometimes, if I've got a mat that's about this size, I'll put a white mat down on it just so I can kind of look at it, or I'll even, get white paper and kind of make something up where I can kind of have an idea of what something will look like once it's matted and framed. That usually helps out. Definitely helps you find, I don't even know what this paper is from. Oh, this was the interior of a sketchbook. I do know what this paper is from. Yeah, I changed out the paper. Anyway, so that, yeah, I think we're good on that. Does anybody have any questions?
No,
Do you want me to look at y'all's, or do you want to just dive into the next one? Or, you know, we can take a little break and I can look at
Your picture is much darker than his.
guys a little critique if you want me to. Or we can,
yeah, I can concur to mine.
you're kind of what?
I says, yes, you can critique mine,
Oh, okay.
although I think I know what you're gonna tell me, but
Oh,
go ahead and tell me.
well, that's, yeah. Why don't we do that? Well, we'll take a little break here. We've got 15 minutes before 8. I think that'll give us an hour to kind of at least get the next one started. And I can talk a little bit about what,
While you're critiquing hers, Michael, I'm going to sketch my other one.
okay. Well, remember, I didn't use any of that background. I changed, you know, if you look at my sketch, you'll see that I got rid of that house. Because that wasn't what interested me. Okay, Kathy, you want me to?
House was pretty cool looking.
Well, it is, but it was a little, I thought it was overly complex. And what was really interesting to me was the gate. And it wasn't really that gate that I like. I didn't really like that. I mean, the gate's kind of cool, but I like a different, I wanted to do a different kind of solid wood kind of gate. And I really just like the flower bed. So that's what I want to focus on. So,
Oh.
All right, Kathy, you want me to look at yours?
Okay.
Replace spotlight. Here we go. Oh, hey, that's looking okay. Let me take a screenshot really quick. And hold it right there. Got it. Right. See if I can find the right button to open that. Share screen. All right, can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna crop it down so that's because that's actually the edge of your paper anyway.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to worry about the excess stuff. Close enough. And that over here. Let's see here. What am I looking for? Yeah. So my only thought is, dang it. Sorry, I telemarketer again. I don't know why they seem to call me at 8:45 or 7:45 every Monday morning or evening. So you have a bit of a kind of a halo right here
I know.
around the edge of your like right in here. Like this is really nice what you got going on there. What I would do is kind of come in with this, kind of this dark. Let me sample the right thing. There we go. And just kind of get rid of that little bit of a halo back in there.
Okay. Yeah.
Over here, you've got a little bit more here. I would make sure that, whatever this color is here, just kind of bring that up next to the edge of the, or if it's easier, bring the red of that up in there. And then I might,
Okay.
what I think I would do here is either get this, dark green here that you've got going on, and kind of
Mhm.
break up some of that. Like this is okay where there's that little bit of light, but you have this kind of little line right there. I'd just come in and break that up just a little bit. So it's less of an outline looking thing.
Mhm.
And then do you see that internet connection is unstable warning? Really though, this is looking really nice. You could lift out a little texture in these darks here, but I don't know that you definitely need it.
Do you think I need to put another wash over that left wall? Get it darker or?
Oh, here? Yeah, I mean, you could put a, really wish I had a decent, let's see if I can find a good brush here. There we go. Let's make this, you could come in and just kind of add a bit more of a, see how I did that? Now I would then go back in, and I can't really do it on in the computer, but I would come in and kind of, let's see if I can blur that. No, it's gonna too big. I would soften this edge a little bit more, but just by adding just a wee bit, let me just erase that really quickly. I think you could, whoops. Just kind of erase that. There we go. I think if you just kind of come in and kind of go, whoop, that'll help push that back a little bit.
Okay.
And then just, I can't really do it in Photoshop. It's a little, well, I could, but it's a little more complex to go in and feather that. But just add some water next to it.
And soften it.
And soften that line.
Okay.
What am I looking for? I don't know if that really feathered it, but it's a little harder to do electronically than than with a brush. If I had a brush, I could just go in and add a little water to that, and you'd know what I'm, you could see what I'm talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
But yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Now,
Yeah.
again, that didn't really, I kind of softened it. Maybe a little bit more. I made it a little bit smaller than I would want it. But that kind of gives you an idea. I still would kind of come up to like up in this area here, with
Uh-huh.
that wash, or or even maybe like this, kind of come in. Let me go back to, just kind of like that, but and then soften.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I think that'll help that a little bit, and you could even do just a bit more, down in here as well. Just kind of help push that back just a little bit,
Okay.
just a little bit of
Uh-huh.
down there. I think that'll help
Uh-huh.
pull that in, maybe like that.
Okay.
I know it seems like, oh, well, this side is in the light, but really just a wee bit of the light's being caught on this, and then some of it's bouncing back from this wall onto that. So,
Uh-huh.
um,
Uh-huh.
so that's really, where I would do that. Yeah, that's really it, though. I mean, I think this is looking really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job. What am I trying?
Thank you.
Anybody else want me to look at theirs, or do we want to jump into the? Either way.
Yes, I want you to look at mine.
Oh, okay.
Trying to get the camera turned around. There we go. Okay.
All right, kind of hold it right there. And hold it. Got it. Okay, so let's look at that one really quickly. Crop that. Let's see here. It's funny. Every week I try to. I think I have a handle on Zoom, and then I can't remember where a button is or something else. Yeah. So I think this is looking really nice. I think that this shadow here on the wall needs to be a little bit. Well, let me just the shadow that kind of comes across there.
Okay.
Let me add a new layer. That way I can delete something if I don't like it. So I think, so you've got the shadow, I can kind of see it. But I think it needs to be a little bit sharper and darker. I'm just using this purple that I sampled from Kathy's, but you can use whatever color you feel like. But you see how that's a little bit sharper?
Yes. Yeah.
That helps that shadow like really sell that a little bit better. So I think that just needs to be a little bit darker.
Okay.
That whole, this whole shadow, and wherever you're starting it from. So let me just kind of pull that in. And then let me come back over here and get rid of that. So however, I don't remember where, you had yours coming in, but it could be just, like that. That's not the best angle that I drew there, but you get the idea. Just kind of, I think it needs to be a little sharper just to help, just to help sell that idea of the shadow coming down across those doors. But really, and then maybe, maybe just a wee bit more across this, again, kind of like I was talking about on Kathy's. So if I pull this across, and then, what am I doing here? And then I come in, let's see. Mm. And I kind of feather that a little bit.
Okay, on the base?
Yeah, just kind of feather it in there a little bit. And same with here. You know, I painted like a little a swath of color across there. I probably painted too much. And then I just kind of, I want to, you know, just go in with water once you paint a little bit. And
Okay,
feather it out. So, you know, more like in that neighborhood. It'll help push these and if you need to, you can put a little bit more you know, dark down in, and I'm just using this purple again, but
yes.
but you kind of get the idea. Let me,
I-
you know, if you need to just cut, oh, no, not that dark. You know, just kind of come in and kind of help sell that a little bit more. That's not the best shadow I've ever painted, but
Okay,
you get, you
I
know,
did-
just down here around the base, just put a little bit more dark there. I think you're good here. This looks great. I think this just needs to be, you know, take this green that you've already got and maybe kind of move that in there.
I don't see your cursor.
Oh, sorry. Right in here. Underneath this pot on the right.
Okay,
Just see
Make it
where
dark.
I accidentally put a little purple there. Just put a little bit more.
a little bit more purple.
No, use that green. I would use that green. So that you've already got, because that's what you've got there. So yeah, just kind of come in with that's not very good that I just did, but just kind of darken this up. Let me sample a better green, a darker.
Okay,
You know, just come in with that green and just add a little bit more. That'll just help anchor that into
okay,
that'll help anchor the pot down into the ground. I think it's anchored pretty pretty well, but yeah, that's all I would really do.
all right.
Yeah. Oh, now we're getting a little thunder here. You could go in and lift a little texture out of here if you wanted, but these look nice. I like the trees. They're looking nice.
Extra out of where?
Out of your trees, you know, just go in and paint a little water,
Oh,
do a little scribble technique, you know, with your paintbrush where you just kind of scribble water in there and then let it sit and then blot it and then scrub it.
okay,
And that'll just give you a little more texture in there. You've got a fair amount, but I, you know, it could, and that's a nitpicky thing. I think you're fine if you don't do that, but if you want to try it, you could do that.
okay.
And yeah, I think that's it. So shall we, anybody else real quick before, and it's okay if you don't want to. Why don't we go ahead and start don't save that. And let's close that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the drawing and because I want to talk a little bit about why I like the house. Let me get this range to up vertical. Let's move that small. And let's make that smaller. And that's there we go. And let's go back to share. That's what I need to do. Share screen. So I don't disagree. This is an interesting house. This is actually a really cool house, and I have other pictures of it somewhere. I particularly like these, you know, carved wooden columns. But the angle that I took this at, you know, and I could have, you know, we could have moved the door. We could have gotten rid of these side lights, or we could have, you know, moved them around. I could have gotten rid of this, you know, or kept going with this. You know, I could have done something with this window here, and but really, what I liked about this was the garden. I liked these hollyhocks. I liked the fact that we were so close to this gate. This, I don't dislike this gate. I know I kept saying, well, I don't really like that gate. If I had that gate, I'd be perfectly happy with that gate in my yard. But I didn't really want to paint. I didn't want to deal with all these, you know, like, because you can see through it. And you can see that this is actually a driveway right here. This is actually asphalt. It's an asphalt driveway. And I wanted this to have more of the illusion of being a garden, a wall, you know, a fence or a walled in garden. And I got the idea that this stuff back here was all very distracting from what I really liked about it, which was these hollyhocks and these, you know, here's an iris coming up in there. There's I don't remember what that is, and it's not important that we name it. There were even some hollyhocks over here, but I liked this, you know, this part of this wall coming in here, and actually I think this is actually kind of a big post, and the wall's a little lower down here, but that
Going
is,
on with
what's that?
on with your sound. We're missing some of it.
Oh, am I going in and out?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Basically, the gist of all that yammering was that what I find interesting about this is the garden. And I like the fact that we're close to this kind of gateway here. Like maybe we're about to step into that garden. So if you kind of come over to my sketch here, you know, I kept this wall, I moved it up a little higher. And then I put this kind of vine thing growing on it, maybe from the other side, or, well, it's definitely coming over from the other side. Whether this is, you know, trumpet vine or whatever, it doesn't matter. And then I kind of decided, well, because I know this, I can't remember where this house is. I think it's in the northeast heights of Albuquerque, but you can kind of see the mountains reflected over here in this window. And
Oh, yes.
so I thought, okay, well, it's up, maybe it's up in the mountains. I kind of like that feel. So, you know, I threw in these 3 pine trees. I don't know if they're going to live right there in that middle spot. You know, I threw them right in the middle and then realized I threw them right in the middle. I may move them over or add, you know, yeah, I think, you know, they're there, but it's really easy at this point to go, okay, these shouldn't be there. You know, I can basically kind of take them and move them over, you know, maybe I want them over here. Sorry that there's a blue background back there, but you know, maybe I want those 3 trees over here towards the edge, or maybe I want them over here. I'm just moving them this way to just show you that, you know, obviously it's just a drawing. So, oops, there we go. Come on. So I don't really like those 3. I don't know why there we go. So while I like the pine trees being in there because they're another kind of thing to add depth to the composition, I don't like the fact that I put them right in the middle. So I'm thinking about actually moving them. Let me grab this, you know, moving them over here. So if I were you, that's what I'd do. But you can see, what's that?
Moving them upward?
No, move them over to the side over here. Over
to the side, okay.
Yeah. Just, forget that they're here in the middle and move them over here. Because again, they don't really exist. This is just my thought because I really like the garden. I like the idea, I'm using this as inspiration to come up with my own idea, my own composition. And I want to encourage you guys to look at that too. Like, oh, I really like the fact that we're so close to this gate and it looks like we're about to walk into their, garden, even though that's a driveway. I really like that feel, but I didn't want to deal with this. This is all really busy back here. And the flower bed is busy enough. So that's why I thought, okay, well, we'll just make it busier with natural stuff. And at some other point, we'll come back and we'll think, and I think I have other pictures of this house somewhere, because I know I took them. Again, I do like these columns and stuff, but maybe from a different angle, so it's not quite as complex or as busy, I should say. I want to simplify things. So this is kind of what I was thinking. So really, I'm just using this gate as the, and this flower bed as inspiration for my own composition over here. So if you guys want to get started on that, I'm going to leave both up. Hopefully that's not a problem. But let me switch out pieces of paper here.
I'm not real sure how to do a hollyhock.
Well, I'm going to show. So here's how I do a short. I'll show you real quick. I'm just going to flip this because let me stop share for a second, and let me go back to. So I just flipped this. I just flipped my painting over. So I have a shorthand for hollyhocks, and all it is I go in and I kind of have this kind of, I don't know if you can, I mean, it's a shorthand. So I just make these kind of wavy towers of and then I'll go in and I'll, as I'm painting the green in, I'll leave areas where I go, oh, well, there'll be a clump of flowers here and a clump of, there'll be some flowers there. And you know what I mean? Just very similar to what I did before. So I just kind of come in, there are these kind of skinny, wavy towers. That's my shorthand for hollyhocks. If I'm painting like a whole garden scene, because people know what they are. They're like, oh, those are hollyhocks. If I'm going to paint actual, a portrait of, let's say I'm going to zoom in. Let's go back to screen share. We'll go back to there. Let's say I was going to zoom in real quickly. We'll do that on, just this section or just this part where I wanted to do these hollyhocks here. That would be a completely different way of painting those. Then I'd go in and I'd think about, oh, there's a leaf here, and there's this flower shape here. And of course, I would also have a much closer, I mean, this is, so zoomed in, it's pixelated, but, I would pay attention to where flowers are and what the actual shape, the stems look like, and buds, all these buds and whatnot. I would pay attention to that. But
yes,
but because we're just doing we're doing an impression of a garden. I'm not real worried about. So just what you see here, these little these little scribbly, wavy tower looking things, those are hollyhocks, and it's just a really easy way of kind of. And I don't like to encourage people to draw symbols because then we get into drawing trees that look like broccoli and air fresheners. but it's okay sometimes to kind of abstract out a shape, and that's what we've done here. We've kind of abstracted out that shape. Where did I put my sketch? There we go. So I'm gonna tape this on my paper here, or my board. Real quick. And so what I did when I was starting this sketch is I put this gate, I sketched the gate in first. So I did this kind of rounded, kind of solid. I felt like this kind of, because originally I was going to do the house. So you can see I have this kind of solid wood gate that's kind of arched at the top. And I felt like that kind of went with this door that they have back here more than this kind of whimsical looking, this kind of looks a little more gingerbready or it's a different style gate. That's, which they probably found it somewhere, at an antique.
Yes.
But nonetheless, it felt a little out of place with this style house. So I went with this kind of more solid kind of wood gate because I felt like it, and that was when I thought, oh, I'm going to do this whole house. But then I realized that I wasn't really interested in the house. I was interested in the garden in there, and sort of that was kind of the reason, the whole reason I liked this this whole thing was because of the garden. So what I did was I came in and I was like, okay, well, I have this giant kind of piece of wall right here. So I drew that in. And then I go, okay, well, I don't want to do this whimsical gate. I'm going to do this kind of more solid wood gate. Now, you could definitely do something like this if you wanted to. My recommendation would be to make this wood instead of these rods going down, just because that gets so complicated. And I always look for ways to simplify a composition. Sometimes complication, being complicated is kind of a good thing, but sometimes it's not. I don't know that I think those add so much busyness to the bottom of the painting where you don't want it, that even if you wanted to do that shape of this gate, which is quite nice. I mean, that's a fun little gate, split in the middle. I would still make this solid wood. That's just me. And my recommendation. But this is where I'd start off. I'd start off looking at this, and then you go back in here and deal with the rest. I think it'll just make it that much easier when you start drawing, to figure out that bit that's closest to you, and kind of the scale of that, and then go from there. Hopefully that makes sense.
Michael, where did you say to put the pine trees?
I would move them. I didn't, I don't like them there in the middle. I would move them over here on the left side. Just
Left
put,
side? Okay.
yeah, just back in here, however you want to. But I want everybody to kind of think about, like taking something from one place and saying, okay, well, I really like that element. I like that little bit of the gate, right there, and I like the garden, but maybe I don't need this, this house back here because that's super complicated. And is that adding anything to my composition? Really, that's the key right there.
I'm sorry, Michael, I was busy drawing. Once again, where do you want the spruce tree? Or the
I would move them over here onto the left-hand side. So I'll just show you really quickly. I'm going to take these guys and just kind of plop them over here somewhere. Something like that.
You did that well.
Oh, thanks. So that's, and maybe I mean, you can make them whatever. They don't necessarily have to be a little tiny one, a tall one, and then a medium-sized one. They don't have to be in that order. Figure out, the kind of composition that you like. That may not work at all. We'll see when we get to it. And know that if you sketch them in, you can always paint them differently than you sketch them in. So don't worry if you sketch them in and then suddenly you're like, oh, I don't really like how I did that.
I'm doing mine on 12 by 12 paper. I'm gonna give myself a lot of room for error.
All right. That's okay. Ooh, that was a big thunder.
Hey, Michael,
Yes. Yeah.
I have to sign off. I have to sign off now.
Oh, okay.
But I'll caught up with your video.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Everybody have a great week.
Kathy, you too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Mm. Got paint on the side of my hand again somewhere. Yeah. All right. crap, what's going on?
And Michael, I have to leave also, but I will also catch up on with Zoom.
Okay,
Have a good evening.
thanks. You too.
Safe
Have a
drive.
yeah, we'll see you next
Drive. Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Well, Michael, who's left? Me?
You and Rebecca or Becky.
Oh, Becky's there? Okay.
I'm here. I'm just silent and you can't see me. If I have anything on, my internet goes.
It's funny what rain and stuff like that will.
Well, when you have a satellite on top of your house,
Yeah,
it makes sense.
yeah.
We do all this drawing just to erase it. Okay, those two little angles on the gate, on the top of the gate, that's for shading, right?
Two little angles. Oh, right here. Right,
At the
right.
top,
This bit.
at the last line at the very top.
This.
That's to show the thickness of the gate.
Yeah. That's the thickness of the gate. So
Angle.
this little line right there is the board, the top of the board. This is the top of the board, and then it goes down there. And wow, that was
Okay.
pretty close thunder or pretty close lightning there. But yeah, that's what that is. This kind of shows that's exactly what that is, the top of the gate. And it comes along and then it gets thin and then it turns into just a single line. This is an accidental line right there that I didn't get. Let me just,
Okay.
it just kind of, boy, my computer is moving slow today. This kind of comes in and oops, wrong brush. But you kind of get the picture. This comes along and joins up with that. All right. How's everybody doing?
Good. I'm done.
Oh, okay. Let's,
I'm almost there.
oh, okay. You want me to keep that picture up for a second?
I think I have my picture that I printed. Let's see. I'll take a quick picture of your revised one. I think I'm good.
Okay. My water bottle here. Okay, so stop share. Now, how did that get all wonky? There we go. And up a little bit more. Okay. So, I accidentally got blue paint on my paper already because there was still some apparently wet on my board or something. But that's okay. I'm not too worried about that.
That spray bottle.
Yeah, it could have been from who knows. But it was on the side of my hand and I drug my hand when I was drawing. Let me, oh, actually, I see where it is. There was some on my eraser as well. That may be where I got some of it. Interesting. Yeah, so I got another little bit of blue. But again, I'm not going to panic. It's not going to even be noticeable. I mean, I could go in and lift it, but I'm not going to even worry about that because, well, I'm just not going to. And we're going to start kind of in this foreground and then work our way back. And some of this will kind of have a little bit of a shadow on it. There it is. So I'm going to go in. I know, this is kind of an Adobe wall and I like to you guys know, I don't, paint Adobe walls just brown because that's not interesting. So I'm going to start off with a little lemon yellow up in here, which you guys remember is this bright yellow. I'm going to start off with a little lemon yellow, a little permanent yellow a little permanent yellow deep, and a little permanent yellow orange, all of which is like, lemon yellow could be the cadmium lemon yellow. It could be cadmium yellow deep and cadmium orange. Those are very similar. And I'm just going to grab a little, well, let's see, you can't even see that. Let's see here. I'm just going to grab a little bit of that. I've got this place where I started a puddle of lemon yellow right there. And I'm just going to come across here, and to begin with, this top portion is just going to be, the lightest area of this part of this wall. So I'm just going to cover that, put that lemon yellow down in there. Then I'm going to come back with a permanent yellow deep. If you had something like Azo yellow or Indian yellow, that would also be a good yellow. So we've got a little bit of that going in. We're just blending the two. And then I'm going to grab some permanent yellow orange and pull that on down into this area. Maybe while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to grab a little opera, that nice bright pink that we've used before. And I'm going to add a little, even though it looks like it's darker, it actually has a value the same as the lemon yellow. So it looks darker, but it's not really. So let's just pull that in. And really, this is just this first bit of color that we're going to put in here. That yellow dried a little quick, so I'm just going to come up here and wet that. Maybe grab a little bit more pigment. And just kind of let that run down. And then I'm going to pick up some of this excess water because I did use a lot of water. And this is going to start out a little light, you know, a little on the light side, but we'll get more vibrant. As you can see, you almost can't even see that blue that I got on there beforehand. Add a little more. I picked up a little bit too much pigment right there. Just put it up. Need a little more water in my brush. My brush was a bit too dry. So I just picked up a little more of the orange, that permanent yellow orange. Again, that could be cadmium orange is a great orange, or whatever orange you have, but cadmium orange is a good is a great orange that's very similar to this orange that I'm using. So just put a little more of that down in there. And we're gonna now, oops. Yeah. It was like I lost my cell connection there for a second, or my Wi-Fi connection on my cell phone for a second. All right, so the only reason I'm going to dry this is because I want to do this, you know, start the first wash on this gate. So I'm not going to worry about it drying over here. I'm just going to dry it a little bit over here on the left side of that, just to get it dry. Well, dry enough to paint next to, which is pretty close to that. And now I want to paint this. The gate in the photo is blue. I really like blue gates. I like blue doors. I do a lot of that. So we're going to do that same, you know, kind of similar to what we did with that gate, you know, the doors in the last one. We're going to do this kind of cool blue wash. Well, multicolored blue wash. And got a little bit of a flood going on in my palette over here. Somehow I bumped it and water went everywhere. So I'm going to come back over. I may even clean out this spot here where I have this dark blue that we mixed up just recently. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a cleaner area here. It doesn't have to be super clean, but just kind of pick up some of that. That's good enough. And, you know, I'm going to use these kind of, you know, this range of blues up here. I'm going to use, you know, peacock blue. I'm going to use cerulean blue. I'm going to use Andrews turquoise. You know, I could even go to verditer blue, which is this kind of creamy blue over here. These are kind of my go-to gate blues. And then I also use, as you know, some opera. And then I also like to use a little quinacridone gold, which is this guy right over here in the lower left-hand corner. I like to use that as well. So, whoops. Let's get this thing to work right. There we go. So I'm going to start with, I think, a little quinacridone gold. I'm just going to, you can see that when I put it on my palette, it's just this kind of, you know, yellow gold or brown, you know, brownish gold color. Very similar to yellow ochre. I know I've said this before that I switched yellow ochre for quinacridone gold. I just like quinacridone gold a little better, but yellow ochre is perfectly a great, you know, it's just a fine color. There's nothing wrong with it. I just happen to like quinacridone gold just a wee bit better. So I'm going to come back over here. And I'm just going to put a little bit of this on. I want to make sure that it's fairly wet, so I'm going to add a lot of water to it. And I just want that to look maybe like it's faded in a few spots. And then I'm going to come over and grab a little Andrews turquoise. And I'm just going to kind of put a little of that down. You know, there's not a huge amount of space on this, so I'm not too worried about switching it up too much. Maybe I'll come over here and grab a little cerulean blue. That's a slightly different blue than the turquoise. Probably the closest to, you know, what those blue doors are painted, but I like a variety. I'll just add, you know, maybe a little more there. I'm going to come in now while I still have some of this quinacridone gold, and I'm going to grab some opera, and I'm going to plop that down in there just so it's, and then move it around with some water. You can see I put some down and now I've moved it around so it's not quite as bright. I could even put some up there. Let's see, I'm going to grab some peacock blue now. Up in there. That's just slightly, you know, just slightly brighter. Nope. I'm keep losing camera there for a second for some reason. So I'm just going to kind of let that run down in there. Maybe I'll come in with a little of the quinacridone gold up here on top. I'm not too worried yet about differentiating out the top of my gate and the rest of it, but I am going to add a little. I didn't really clean my brush out very good. I'm going to add a little bit of that and then probably some Andrews turquoise up in there. And then I need to make sure that I get right up here next to my wall with that. Now let me just grab a little more peacock blue and just put that in the mix there. And that's a little bit too much, so a little too overbearing. So I'm just going to clean my brush out now, and with water, just kind of move that around and let it do its thing. You can see I've got a nice bead of water sort of forming down here at the bottom. I can just go along here with a thirsty brush. All I've done is squeezed out my brush. I can go along here and pick up some of that excess water. If I feel like maybe I got too much, I can obviously, I can also go back in and add a little more back down in there. Yeah. So now I have this kind of interesting, you know, blue gate that's really, I'm going to add a little more popper right there. Let that kind of run in. You know, it's more interesting than just solid blue or brown or whatever we got going on. It's starting to look, you know, like a faded blue gate, which is kind of cool and kind of the look I'm going for. Let's see, I might add a little vertical blue just up here to give it kind of that chalky look. That looks like too much, obviously, so we'll just do that with it. Like so, and that just gives it a little bit of a chalky chalky blue look. That's kind of why I like that vertical blue for some things, because it just has that, well, it's a chalky kind of feel. Sometimes cerulean blue has that similar kind of chalkiness. And I don't know how to describe it other than it's slightly more opaque. So, and it kind of has that feel of like a chalk paint. But there you go. That's that first little bit. Let me just kind of lift that back out. I want it, it'll be, let's see. Go back in with that. It'll be lighter. We're going to add another kind of layer of color over this part. So I'm not too worried about that appearing to be the same value. Right now, it's just a flat wash of color over everything. So I'm not too particularly worried about those being the same value, because we'll add a little bit more of a glaze over this side of the, you know, where we deal with that. So that will appear to be lighter. And we'll do that here in a little bit, you know, a little bit later, or not here in a little bit, but later in the paint. So now I'm just kind of adding water to see if I can get any cool blossoms to form. If you can get cool blossoms to form, they start to look a lot like peeling paint, which is kind of fun. Obviously, if it's your gate, it's not so great, but if it's just a painted gate, you know, a painting of a gate, then peeling paint is fun. I may have added too much. I'll let that dry a little bit. I'll pick up that little spot there. Let it dry for a second. I might even hit it. I'm going to hit it with a blow dryer just to. Speed it along. So if I can get it to where there's less of you know, less of a glare, where it's not, it's damp still but not shiny. That was the word I was looking for, shiny. Then that's the perfect time to get blossoms. And, you know, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I don't ever fret too much over the fact that I do or I don't get a blossom, unless I get one where I don't want one. But yeah, I think that's, you know, that's not looking too shabby. Let me try that one more time. I think I didn't quite get it dry enough. Now I may have gotten it too dry. Yep, got it too dry. That's all right. That's all right. It's all about kind of playing around with it and experimenting with it. Yeah. Okay, so I'm happy with that wash. It's not quite dry yet, but that's okay. You know, again, what this is kind of, you know, it's kind of loose. I'm not too worried about anything. And I'm trying to decide if it would be easier to go ahead and paint, which I think it would be, but I think I'm going to have to use a smaller brush than my 1-inch flat. I kind of want to do this wall back here as well.
Oh, Michael, that was a wall
Yeah, that's a wall. This,
on the
this is
right.
a-
Okay, it's the wall like on the picture then, huh?
yeah, that's one of the
Okay,
other
'cause
things that I kind of saved.
Okay, the wall. All right, I'll draw it a little straighter. I draw it kind of squiggly. I thought it was like some kind of brush.
Oh, shoot, sorry. Okay, so yeah, so that's a wall very similar to the, except you know the one in the picture comes across and then it actually kind of angles you know, this way a little bit. This one just kind of goes across the back there.
Okay, just straight kind of.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then what this is here is a vine that's kind of growing over from the other side and kind of overhanging. That, or you know, it could be a shrub that's kind of overgrown and overhanging on the other side. Whatever, you know, not necessarily a vine, but it's some sort of plant that's kind of growing over that wall.
Honey.
Yeah, honey.
Honey.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or trumpet vine, like you said.
Yeah, trumpet vine. Yeah, any of those kind of deals. So again, we're gonna do similar colors to this. I'm gonna grab, scrape off a little. There was a little, you can see my opera has gotten a little granulated, so I'm just gonna sweep off those little granules just because I don't really need them or want them, because if I hit them with water, they'll make a weird.
Make a little, like a white puddle, huh?
Yeah.
I've done.
Yeah, so I just brush those off now that this is dry. So I'm going to come up, excuse me, I'm going to come up in here and I'm going to kind of paint around where I think these hollyhocks are going to go. Or do I want to start? Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to kind of come in here. This is, this is lemon yellow. I'm just going to run a little bit of that up in there. And I'm just going to paint this section to begin with. So now that I've got that lemon yellow in, I'm going to come back in with some permanent yellow deep. And if
Brush are you using?
the first one was lemon yellow. And now I'm
Brush.
using, oh, what size brush? A number 8 round. It's just a little easier to get in all these little nooks and crannies. So I'm just going to kind of come in like that. Then we'll switch over to this orange, permanent yellow orange. Just kind of, if I need to, I can always go back in and add more of this color later, or I can paint over it if I want. Let's come in with that orange again down in here. Let that dry a little bit too much, so I just need to kind of re-wet that so I don't get that hard line right there. Let's come in with some of that orange again. And maybe a little more permanent yellow deep. And I'm trying to work fairly fast, fairly quickly, and keep everything kind of wet. You want the where you're putting down color, you want that to stay wet for a while, because you want it to kind of blend itself. You want it to mix itself on the paper. So I'm just kind of pull that orange down in here. Now down in here, this is, I've made this some other kind of, plant. It could be a whole lot of flowers, or, I don't know, it could be, what am I thinking of? I'll think of it here in a second. Marigolds or something like that. I am going to come in with a little alizarin crimson kind of as we get down in here. That looks a little brown on my screen, but it's not. It's if you don't like alizarin crimson, you could even just use a little of here. I'll just use a little red, permanent red, just to kind of darken up some of those areas. It doesn't have to be super dark, just a little bit darker. We're just kind of playing with these colors. Let me re-wet this up here. I do want a little opera in there as well. So I'm going to drop in a little opera in a few spots. Now I drop it in, and then I want to make sure that I come back in with some water and get that to run. We'll come back in. Now I'm using, I've switched back to that permanent yellow orange. We'll have that kind of come down further into there. And right now I'm just kind of making up what I think the top of these plants will be and the bottom will be. I'm not too concerned if it's perfect. I can always, kind of make it different. Let's see, I can change it later if I need to add or subtract this, parts of this wall. So this is permanent yellow deep that I'm using again. And then we'll switch back to the orange. And the reason I stopped here is because I have this hollyhock that kind of comes all the way up and bisects the wall. So the wall starts again on the other side. So I can let that edge kind of dry. Whereas over here, this wall doesn't have anything that bisects it. So I kind of need to come back this direction. Let's go back. I'm going to grab a little more opera, I think, and just put a little more of that in there. Again, that's a lot, and I don't want just that dot of it. I want it to kind of blend in. I want it almost imperceptible, but I'll know it's there. And while people may not realize that's what it is, they'll, you know, it'll kind of be there subconsciously for them, I guess, to make that more interesting of a wash. Let's see, I don't know that I like that shape. I think I'm just going to kind of get rid of that entirely. Like so. Just kind of keep on continuing through here. Let's see, I want to go back to a little lemon yellow up here on the top. And then back into some permanent yellow deep. So, and then I've switched now, this is permanent yellow orange. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you when I switched to that, but that's what I'm using right here. And then as we get down in there, I'm gonna grab, I think I like how the red looks a little bit, so I'm just gonna grab some permanent red and use that, but then let it really get washed out. Maybe go back to the orange. Yeah, so we have that nice wall there, and then I need to finish it out over here. So I'm gonna grab. Let's see. I don't think I got that all the way up to. There we go. So let me just kind of fix that a little bit. So we'll come in with a little. Yeah, permanent yellow. That's close enough. I feel like I can work on both sides of this hollyhock that kind of bisects the wall. So there's permanent yellow lemon. Now I'm going to move into permanent yellow deep. And this whole time, all I'm doing is just kind of guesstimating about where I think those hollyhocks will be. If I end up painting over some of this yellow, that's okay. If I end up needing to add some more of this orange and yellow, that's okay as well. Let's see, I forgot to add a little permanent yellow orange down in there. I want to kind of do that, maybe a little more over here as well. So yeah, that's all I'm really doing is just kind of thinking, okay, well, maybe I'll have some hollyhocks there. Whatnot. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, it got a little darker down in here. I'm not sure I like that, but I can always lift some of this back out. I don't dislike it. But yeah, not too bad. All right. Well, hey, we made it to 9 and my internet didn't crap out totally. So I feel good about that.
That's good.
Yeah. So this actually is a pretty decent stopping point. So I think that's where we'll stop. Whoop, I think I just froze. Yep. At least the my phone froze for a second. But I think this is a really good, really good stopping point for this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you
Doing
guys.
this for us.
You, good job.
Oh yeah. Thanks you guys for being able to stick around. Although I don't blame people who have to leave early. It's not a big deal. That's why I like recording these things.
Yeah, this will be for next time.
Yeah, but I think we've got a good start, and I guess we'll see everybody next week.
Okay, all right.
All right. You guys have a good rest of your week and a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
All righty. Bye.
You. Bye.
Bye, Becky.
Bye-bye.